Good evening and welcome again to another edition of Foxborough Cable Access Sports Talk. Tonight's topic is football and the new MIAA playoff system. Joining me tonight, we have a nice panel here. Head coach Jack Martinelli of the Foxborough Warriors, athletic director Caitlin Brown, and Gary Hobel, who is an official for the MIAA as well as a former player for Foxborough High School. Welcome everybody.
Thank you.
A lot of questions surrounding this year. I mean, football in general has not had a playoff system like the other sports. Traditionally, you know, teams qualify for a tournament, they get in, not just your league champion, for example, and things play out over a couple weeks until you have a sectional champ and eventually a state champ. But the football format, since I believe the early 70s, has gone to like a Super Bowl type of thing, and early on, the first couple of years, there was only 3 champions, I believe. Then it grew to 4, and I don't even know how many there are now. I mean, there's Division A, Division B of Division 1, let's say, and I know Foxborough's gone anywhere from as high as Division 2 when you want a championship coach, and now currently you're listed in what format? Are we 4 now?
With this format, based solely on male enrollment, is 4.
It's 4.
Yep.
So we've seen fluctuation even within our own. And Caitlin, you could probably explain how that happens, but it was before just your league affiliation. So towns like Walpole, for example, who we just played 2 weeks ago, Walpole was in the Bay State League and they were a Division 1 program because the Bay State League was considered Division 1. The Hawk was traditionally Division 3 for a long time. So how does that all break down now, Caitlin?
Well, in terms of the Hockomock League, the only team in Division 4 other than Foxborough is Canton. And then the other teams are anywhere from Division 1 to Division 4. We're the smallest team in the Hockomock in terms of male enrollment.
Okay, and those Division 1 teams obviously come from the larger division.
Exactly, and we don't, because of the new system, we will not be playing at the varsity level, any of those larger schools. At the JV and freshman level we have.
Okay, so we
games.
keep that rivalry
We do,
going
exactly.
At the sub-varsity level.
That was important to the athletic director to maintain ties with those communities, especially a community like North Attleboro or King Philip, who have strong football programs.
Very good. So in our small division in the Hockomock League, we have Oliver Ames, Sharon, Milford's in there with us, Stoughton.
Yes.
Where do they fall in the format?
So Oliver Ames and I just often, they're 3.
They're all in 3.
They're all in 3. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So Sharon actually has more male enrollment than Foxborough does.
Yep.
Quite a few more.
Yep.
Quite a few more.
Right.
Every school does.
Right.
Every school does, and based on the last year's enrollment. And there was a realignment at every sporting level based on enrollment.
Yeah, and I've seen that with the other sports, both boys and girls. I've seen it happen in basketball and baseball and things like that. And that was actually one of the questions I had that, you know, you're locked in for this year, obviously. Now, is that going to be a review that each year it's going to fluctuate based on your enrollment? So say, for some reason, we pop in with another 100 boys next year. Could we move up to Division 3, or is it
No, this will be a 2-year. I mean, this is a 2-year
period.
This is a 2-year period.
Okay.
Well, some schools had petitioned to move up or down, mostly down.
Gotcha.
And I think all but one was accepted.
Okay.
You know, the rest were turned down.
And this is with a committee within the MIAA?
There's a football committee established by the MIAA. Actually, we have a league representative on that football committee, Brad Sidwell, who is the coach for Franklin and also the athletic director for Franklin, serves on that committee. And when the alignments came out, every athletic director had the opportunity to question where they were placed, and they made an appeal. And you could do this at any sport level, is make an appeal. And then the football committee listened and then made a decision. And I believe that there wasn't many changes to their initial alignments.
Now, Gary, you obviously have been refereeing since 06, I think you said earlier, right?
Correct.
So you got this is about your 8th year?
Yes.
So you've done a lot of football in that period of time. And what's your take on this new format?
As an official, the format really doesn't impact us that much. We still have, you know, our set games. We don't know the schedule in advance, but we've got a job to do, so we got to go and prepare the same way we always prepare and show up and do the best job that we can for the team. So the new format doesn't really impact us all that much, other than we're not really sure where we're going and who's playing or anything like that.
Until the beginning of the week, basically, you get your
Right.
assignments, right?
Right.
Okay, okay. So what is needed to qualify? All right, before you were league champion, you made the playoff.
Right.
Now, I've heard different rumors, and again, this was last time I met with Pat McGuire doing the Walpole game. Pat had two scenarios. He said you could opt for being a division champion, or if you won the majority of your games, something like that. So there was two variables according to Pat, and that's hearsay. So I want to know, I'm sure people at home want to know what the actual format is, and how do we qualify for these playoffs?
Well, this particular format is a combination of the original format back when the Super Bowls first started,
With rating points.
power rating, okay, and also league championship. So it's kind of a combination
Okay.
of the gamut we've already run through for some 30, 32, 33 years.
Right.
Each league is different though, and each division is different, because in some divisions there's no east or west, okay? Some divisions, the first two teams get in, okay? And it's all based on a percentage of the number of divisional teams in your league.
This is probably what Pat was trying to get
Okay.
across to me.
And there's also the power rating, which plays into it. So theoretically, in the Hockomock League, in the small, I can't speak to the large, 3 teams could possibly get in
Okay.
based on power ranking and finishing first or second in the league.
And you get so many points for a win,
You
obviously.
get 10 points for a win within your division.
Okay.
You get 2 more, you'd get 12 for a team above you.
Above you.
Okay, and you'd get 8 for a team below you.
So it's just like it was years
Right.
and years ago when you.
The
first
only
were-
difference is, if you lose to a team, you get 1 point for their wins into your formula.
Okay, so
Okay,
you're not
and then you'll get
penalized
3
for the teams you beat.
teams you beat. So it behooves you still to play good non-league teams.
Right. And that's where Caitlin comes into it. I'm sure you work together picking
Right.
your non-league opponents. So Walpole, knowing it's a strong program,
Right.
even though we lost,
Right.
it's not a total loss, because if they continue to win,
Correct.
you're going to pick up a point for
Correct.
each one of their wins. That's key.
We didn't have that many options, so.
No, I mean, I think Jack, he's humble, and he's established himself as one of the best coaches in the state. And I'm fortunate enough in my first year, to be working with him. And I think really, I would like him to, we work together, but I would say he takes the lead a lot in discussing what's best for the program. And it behooves me to, listen and work together, and I've really appreciated that working relationship.
Oh,
But-
someone with coach's experience,
Exactly, you
obviously.
can't-
Doesn't matter if you had 10
Yep.
years in your role, Caitlin, I think you still turn to the
Exactly.
guy. And
We
again,
didn't have too many choices. A lot of
No,
the
and then that's
teams
just
played
it. It's because of-
non-league last year that we
Don't-
didn't even get phone calls back,
Exactly.
you know?
And, I think because of our reputation and the way these kids come out and play, not a lot of people want to travel to Foxborough. Or we'll be willing to travel. Last year we traveled to
East Longmeadow.
East Longmeadow and,
East
East
Providence.
Providence. You guys
Providence,
played
yeah.
everybody, I think, that started with East.
Right, we
Yeah.
did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
East Bridgewater was another one.
Bridgewater.
Yep.
Right. And then you count
Yeah.
Easton and Oliver Ames you had the Eastern Circuit last year.
Right.
So we can make the playoffs based on the point system.
Right.
Okay. So we qualify. All right. So that's after 7 games. Nobody plays any more than 7 games before
Right.
this whole thing
Yeah.
kicks off. Right.
Yes.
Basically had 8 weeks
To
to
get
play
7
7
games.
games in.
All right. So even if you wanted to play an 8th game, it wasn't going to be allowed. It was
couldn't.
frozen
No.
at
Right.
7.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Good to know. And from that point on, how are the games scheduled? Okay. So you make the playoffs. There's a tournament committee that pairs
Yes.
you guys up, right? And then the officials again, they'll be getting games both in the tournament and outside the tournament. So
Right.
you
I
know,
believe the home team whatever league the home team is in,
Right.
the commissioner or the
The
assigner
assigner
for
for
that home
that
team
that
will fill that
town.
slot, from what I understand.
Okay, and so we're in there and it gets determined, and your first game could possibly be against who? Just throw out a team that could be on your schedule down the road from another
Well,
league.
Could be Westwood, Norton, who else? I mean,
Fairly local.
they
though.
could, they're
the
most
first
of the
game
local.
would be local.
Yeah, the first
Okay.
game would
And
be
if you were
local.
fortunate enough to get to the first game and win, then you'd go against the North,
Okay,
okay? And then you'd go against, if you got by the North, then you're talking East and West as well.
gotcha.
Okay? There'll be 8 teams that make it from both North and South, 1 through 8.
Okay.
And it's a bracket system similar to any of the other MIA tournaments.
Seeded
So
on the
really,
best-
the
most
big
points.
the
Right.
big day will be right after our game against Stoughton that weekend.
Right.
After all the games are done, the football committee from the MIA will meet. They'll create not only the brackets for each division, which will be based again on power rating, and then also if you finish first or second in your division. And after they meet, they will pass it out to the athletic directors. If you don't make the playoffs, they will set opponents for you. You're guaranteed at least 1 home game during that.
That's key to know.
Yeah, 1 home game. They won't have everyone travel. And in the playoff system, it's a shared, even if you're the home team.
Shared gate.
Shared gate. So there's a revenue sharing between the schools.
Okay, so if you don't make it, and we're not going to say we're going down that road, but a team would then have 3 games automatically populated on their schedule.
Yes.
Based on other towns that are already eliminated. That
Yeah.
makes it easier.
Yep,
Right.
exactly.
You win your first game, and then you lose your second game.
Go over to the other
You
bracket.
go into
You
the
to
other
the
one, and
bracket.
then you
Yeah.
pick up somebody else who got knocked out
Right.
along the way there.
Exactly.
Right.
All
They'll
right,
give
so it
you
becomes like a
ex-
consolation type of thing, but
Right.
with no goal at the end other than just filling out your schedule.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's interesting then. And again, the committee's going to determine who's home and away, but you are guaranteed 1 home game.
If you are in the other, if you
In
don't
the
make the playoffs. If you're a playoff team and you are
higher
beating,
seed,
the higher seed will
You'll
host.
continue, which obviously.
And then it
is-
goes to neutral sites
Okay,
after.
very good. Okay, so the championship game, I believe, is slated for after Thanksgiving, like it has been forever.
Right.
Okay,
Without the
okay,
playoff game in between.
without the playoff game in between, so that, you do get the rest for the kids, which is key.
Right.
So now the question is, Coach, how do you approach the Mansfield game if you're going to the championship game a week later? You got tradition.
Right.
And you never play to lose, obviously. You don't
Nope.
practice to lose, you don't play to lose.
Right.
But how's your approach? Is it definitely going to be different, or just hey, we go 1 game at a time and that we're going to win no matter what? That's what we practice for.
I'd like to say we'd go 1 game at a time.
Okay, with the risk of injury
Well,
and it happens
I mean,
in any
that's-
game, happens in practice. We both know
That's
that.
tomorrow, that's the next day.
Right. So you're going to face off against Mansfield next week. You got Westwood for the championship.
Right.
And you're going after Mansfield like you always do.
I'd be not telling the truth if I said we weren't going to.
That's correct.
And I'm sure Mike will be
Mike
the
would be the
same
same
way,
way.
just as he was this past Thanksgiving.
Right.
And they were playing at a playoff game on that next Tuesday.
All right. Now, Gary is a former player not too far back. If you were in that scenario, obviously the Mansfield game was a big game. North seemed to kind of replace Mansfield in some people's minds because just want to beat North all the time too. How's your preparation for that week? Put yourself in a kid's place. It's not that far back.
As an official, there's no difference between a scrimmage really, or a playoff game, or a championship game. As a fan or a player, those are complex questions, and I don't have the same answer for that. I understand what the state's trying to do with the tournament. I think that's very important. But at the same time, Massachusetts has a long Thanksgiving tradition, and football is huge with tradition, and that's a big part of why we as fans enjoy it so much. And tampering with tradition is always a slippery slope, So it's hard to say. I mean, on one hand, you put together an amazing opportunity for a state championship, a true state championship, but on the other hand, these long rivalries that have been going on for decades, don't become as meaningful.
Right.
And I think if you asked a room full of people, that you'd probably be split down the middle with who's in favor of what. So
Right.
it really comes down to the people that are actively involved, which are the coaches and the kids for the team and
Right.
things like that. And I think that would changes every year.
Well, we're actually fortunate in our sense because the way the Hawks set up, Mansfield's in the larger division, so we're not playing them during the regular season, but towns like North, Attleboro, and Attleboro will
Right.
be playing each other.
Everybody will.
Then they'll be playing each other again on Thanksgiving, and then there's a possibility they could be
They
playing
could
each
play
other a
3
week later for the
times after.
championship.
Right.
And I know that's been like a little bit of a brouhaha with some people, just like, that takes away from the Thanksgiving in some cases. In fact, when they did that a couple years ago, they met the Super Bowl after Thanksgiving. There were some people that said, it took away from Thanksgiving because they both wanted to go in to that following week healthy and everything else. But again, it like you said, Gary, it's a slippery slope. Caitlin, some of the logistics that are going to be involved with this. Coach gets his team ready. He's really not concerned. He knows the buses are going to be there. He knows the referees are going to be there, all that stuff. But it puts a little bit of, let's say, work on your plate. How are you going to prepare? I mean, normally you would have your schedule already mapped out. A year ago, it was already laid out for you. You knew who you're playing. You make a phone call to the assigner, whatever, at the beginning of the year, give him your schedule. He's already got guys mapped out for that stuff. You got your home people that do the chains and Al Solzio on the announcing and all that stuff. So those things are pretty much in place, but now you got that question mark. After 7 games, we know we're going to have at least one home game. How does that impact you and what you do, and even with the band? We never want to forget the band, but Neil wanted me to throw that in, and it's a good question.
Well, I think, there's been a lot of, I always think the band, I've been talking to Steve Massey about what that will mean, and that as much as I wish I could give him heads up about when it will be, I said, I think we'll have a better sense as the season goes along about how we're doing as a team, and I have very high expectations for the team, just watching them compete in practice and in the games. But fortunately for me is the people that surround me are excellent. They're very willing to help, and they're very willing to be on call, and I'm just surrounded by really...
You have a good network.
I have a great network, and one that I inherited, and one that I'm just grateful for because they made my last year a lot easier, and they continue to help me with what's going on. So I'm hopeful that they will, step up, and I'm not at all worried, and I say that now and watch it fall apart. But I just have a lot of faith.
You here.
Yeah.
It's just that people think of that because
there's a lot of moving pieces.
Some people's minds, the fans are even saying like, "Hey, is our team going to be bussed across the state?" Like you had to go play in East Longmeadow before, coach, to fill out your schedule. It's like now we're going to go out there to play in an important game.
And there's lots of moving pieces, and I would like to encourage student involvement, whether that means getting a fan bus for the kids or finding a way to get the kids there too. I just there's a lot of moving pieces, but one that I'm confident that we can handle.
Sure.
In a given week.
No, that's fine. And we talked about why the changes were made. I believe this is like a 2-year trial period too, right?
Yes.
So after the 2014 season, if the ADs and principals and stuff say, they do another vote, is that what it's going to come down to?
Yeah, they'll do a review of how it worked, and then there'll be another vote through the MIA, whether how it. Just critiquing, and I think even after this year, as things come up, the MIA has actually, really reached out to the ADs and to the principals to tell them if there are problems and there are issues that come up.
Because they want to
So-
make it work.
Yeah, they do want to make.
wanna make
I
it
think they want to make it work, or they just want to do what's best for kids. And I think one of the big issues was the safety factor of
3
that.
games
the
in like,
3
10
games,
days.
and you look at how much they prepare in a week, and that was a huge issue for I think ADs and the MIA was the safety factor for kids. And,
Absolutely.
You know, I look at last year's team that Foxborough had. I would have loved to see them have a run in the playoffs. So, you know,
Right.
where we beat quality opponents in North Attleboro and Mansfield, and you know, nothing. I mean,
meant
Sharon,
nothing.
It meant nothing.
Other
You know,
than-
other than it was.
Right, other than what it meant to us
the
and
kids.
the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, every game means something, and it's nice to see that you don't lose that first game of the season and then
Right.
feel like you're out for,
Right.
because you never know. And it was.
In years past, it was often like that, especially if it was north at the beginning of the year.
Right.
And then you're waiting, looking at the scoreboard, you know, in the newspaper the next day to see if someone did you a
Right,
favor
I
or
think
not.
that's
Yeah.
what, I think that's what the beauty of this new playoff system is. You'll be following teams that you never thought you'd be following to see how they did that next week because of a common opponent.
Excellent, yeah. You know, and this is a perfect segue into, you know, my next little topic here is, you know, the fact that you, other than Mansfield, you're not playing any of the Kelly Rex Division teams. You know, you and I talked about this last week with your captains. They are sorely going to miss playing against North Attleboro. Taunton is new, Attleboro's kind of new, but North Attleboro, KP, Franklin,
Right.
those were staples on our schedule. Gary, it was when you played, it was when I played.
Right.
You know, obviously that has an impact on your team. You know, you can fill in with other people, but it's not the same, right, Coach?
Well, yes and no. You know, I mean, I think the kids grew accustomed to one another, you know, from midgets on up.
Right.
But even the midgets has changed too in terms of teams that you played.
Yeah, they scramble us
Right,
everywhere.
right. So, I mean, I think that's what's happening at the
Mm-hmm.
high school level as well.
Right. Now, what it does impact, though, Caitlin, is revenue. You get North Attleboro comes to town, all right, or then you get, say, Milford comes to town. Well, Milford's going to travel longer distance to begin with, and if their team's struggling, their fans are going to come. We've even seen in years past, Coach, you know, Canton, you look across the
Right.
way, and
Yeah.
Canton's got 50 people in the stands, whereas Walpole, 2 weeks ago, you probably had 1,000, 1,500 people on that
Yeah.
side of the field.
Right.
So, you know, missing some of those games, I mean, you still get Mansfield Turkey Day,
Right.
but North Attleboro, that's a big gate for us, right?
Yeah, you know, and I maybe I shouldn't say this, but the revenue thing is not my biggest not my biggest concern, and you know, I think we'll miss North, and I know that one of the things we did try to do in order to maintain that competitiveness between the two communities is continue our JV and freshman programs playing some of the Kelly Rex opponents. That was important to the ADs to
Right.
maintain that connectiveness between the two leagues, so we don't feel like we're two separate leagues, even though because of the system, there is a little bit of that. In terms of the gate and the teams being there, I think it just things may change. It may be that, you know, Milford may have an up and coming program and be
Right.
willing to, and they're looking forward to being there, honored to be part of the Hockomock League. And I'm biased. I think it's an excellent league with great tradition. So,
Oh, it
you know,
is.
you look at the history, and I'm from the North Shore, and I knew all about Foxborough. And so I think that I think it will create new competitiveness, even from Oliver Ames as being kind of developing a stronger football program, and Sharon last year. I mean, that was,
Right.
you
Prove
know,
anything can
that
happen.
you prove,
Right.
you know,
Anything
they had an incredible run, and they worked hard, and they didn't give up. And I think Stoughton's always been tough, and so I'm looking forward that every game, every week to week, is going to be a tough game.
Yeah. And sometimes
But
it's a
those-
certain group of kids that
Right,
carry a team.
right. But a North Attleboro or a KP or a Franklin isn't out of the question
No.
in the future.
Yeah.
Because I think after a couple of years of this playoff system, I don't ever see them going back to anything else.
So you
They'll
think
just-
this is here to stay?
I
Coach?
think so.
And some
I think
variation
so.
of it, some
Right.
tweaking to make it
Whatever
better.
they have to tweak.
Okay.
I just don't ever see them going back to anything else.
Okay.
Those non-league games can be cross games. You know, if the bigger schools are willing to play a smaller school.
Right. Well, certainly in our case, quality opponent, if they know that Foxborough can reel off 7 wins.
Right.
You know, so they get 8 points if they beat you,
Right.
but then.
You still get 24 points, you know.
Exactly.
So it's in so much this. It's very similar to the original power
Right.
ratings, and now add to it and every league has their own way how they determine
Right.
champions. Some leagues have opted not to play their Thanksgiving opponent twice. Catholic Conference, for example.
Okay.
St. John's and Severian will not play until Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Okay, so they have to go out and find another
Find somebody else.
non-league game.
That's not easy for them.
And then Thanksgiving is Thanksgiving, and it has no impact or bearing on the playoffs
Right.
whatsoever.
Which is good to remember too. So.
Right,
You know.
right.
All right. Final takes on this, Gary. We'll start with you.
Well, I want to say thank you for having me here,
Sure.
first of all, and I wish Coach the best of luck this season, continued success for years and years and years to come. And I'm not sure which system is the best system, but I know that Hockomock League has got some of the best football in the state, and I expect them to do very well, no matter what the system is.
yeah. And you hopefully will be doing some of those games.
Hopefully, yeah. If
You know.
not, we'll see him at the next level, I
We'll
hope.
see him at the next level for sure. Caitlin, your final thoughts?
And I just want to thank everyone for having us and hope this gave some clarification to people. It's a new process, and when it's new, we're all figuring it out together, and there will be some bumps in the roads and some growing pains, but I think what it comes down to is we're trying to do what's best for kids, and again, as reiterating what Coach said, we're a strong program, and I think after this year being cautious, we may see other opportunities with other programs in the future, which would be wonderful. You know, we'd like to take on that challenge. I can't speak for him, but
Right.
I would like to take on that challenge.
Coach has never ducked one. That's for
No,
sure.
exactly.
And Coach, your final thoughts?
Well, certainly thanks for giving us the opportunity to maybe touch upon the subject.
Yeah, still a lot to find out.
And I know there's a lot of uncertainties. There's a little extra work for adults to get all the pieces in place, but the end result will be, it'll be a fun scenario for the kids, and probably most of them have no idea that it's a new playoff system. They just live day by day and
This is true.
look no further than tomorrow's practice. And at some point, we'll sit down and explain it to them. And but right now, they're just happy being kids and in school and coming out in the afternoon and playing football.
Sounds good. And I think maybe our next home game that Cable 8 does, it's in a couple weeks. I guess,
Right.
I'm not
I think
sure.
it's Sharon.
Sharon.
Might be. Hopefully we'll have some graphics at that point in time. We'll know where you are in the standings
Right.
along with some of the other teams.
Right.
And we'll be able to put something on the screen
That'd be great.
so that the folks at home, when they watch the game replay, they'll be able to pick up on that. And I think that'll help a lot. And we'll continue to dig some more and get educated on this. And you know, I'm excited about it too. You know, but I'd like to see, you know, something work so there is a true champion. So
We'll give a lot more teams an opportunity to get in the playoff.
there you go.
You know.
And that's what's important.
Right.
That's what's important. So thank you folks for coming out tonight and joining us. And folks at home, I hope you enjoyed this short but sweet episode. And again, maybe more to come as we get on the road. We might be able to get together again, especially if we get to the playoffs. We'll be able to talk some more. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.